Having a reliable network is more important than ever before. However, to build a reliable network, you have to fully understand all features used and also test the network before you deploy it. If you're part of the Cisco Partner Organization, you have access to the so-called Partner Education Connection. This webpage hosts several global online learning delivery, or in short, GOLD labs, that you can use to familiarize yourself with a certain technology. If you would prefer to set up your lab on your own server, we have another option for you. The Virtual Internet Routing Lab, in short, VIRAL. VIRAL comes in two options. First, the Student Edition, and second, the Personal Edition. In VIRAL you can design your own topology, and you can run it as long as you want to. Right now, many enterprise customers consider using a private cloud provider, like Google or Amazon, to outsource the data center. Therefore, it would be great if they were able to test the topology directly in the cloud, especially if it's for cloud deployment. And here, Ravello Systems comes into play. Ravello Systems is an over-the-top cloud provider, meaning they don't host their own infrastructure, but resell cloud compute with their own value add. Their main value add from a networking point of view is definitely that they can emulate a layer 2 infrastructure between servers. This layer 2 network allows you to run features like the first hop redundancy protocols, HSRP, VRRP, and GLBP. Another great value of Ravello is that they make it very easy to create virtual machines, either by importing your own VMs or by using the VMs they offer in their Blueprint library. We have very recently added the free version of the Cisco CSR 1000 to that library. Also, it is very easy to move your entire virtual data center from one cloud provider to another, like from Google to AWS. In the next few minutes I'm going to show you a quick demo on how to set up a Cisco CSR 1000V on a Ravello trial account. To get started, we first go to Ravello's homepage under ravellosystems.com, where we can find an option to start your free trial right in the middle of the screen. Once I go on here, I have to enter my corporate email address. I'm going to use my Cisco in this case, and then just say create my free account. And now just wait for the email from Ravello to come in and register my account. And a few seconds later I got the email from Ravello asking me to activate my account, and I'll just go for that now. Alright, some details required. First name, last name, somebody got something. I don't want to give everybody my email, so nope. And my country is US. And I'm with Cisco. Let's see. What I like you to run? Networking lab sounds good. What do you use it for? Go is personal learning home lab. Register and activate now. Thank you. You're very welcome. Now that my account is activated, let me log in and see if we can get started. Sure. I've seen it before, so I'm going to give you that to myself. So I start on the Applications tab, which you can see here. And an application in Ravello's language is pretty much a combination of different VMs that together fulfill one purpose. So let me just go ahead and create an application here. Name it CSR Simple Test. Description, nobody got time for that. Alright, and create. Now I have to add my CSR VM onto my canvas. To do that I can check if the VM is available in the library on the left here. It is not by default, so I have to see if I can find it in the Ravello repository. If I search here for all the items I've uploaded, you can see that I've uploaded one blueprint. This includes two CSR 1000Vs that are connected back to back in two different data centers. For the purpose of this demo I'm going to use only the standard VM, so I'm going to add the 1000V VM to my library. successfully added. And if I now go back, you can see it appearing up here. As a next step, I'm going to add one CSR 1000V instance to my canvas. So I simply drag and drop it onto my right canvas here. Next I have to configure the CSR inside Ravello. So you can see here on the right the tabs where I can do that. First, summary. It shows me that I have by default 1 CPU, 4 GB memory and 8 GB storage. That's all fine. And I have 2 network connections. Going into the details here. Under general I can configure the name and description, which I don't care about right now. System allows me to change CPU and memory size. Again, defaults are fine. Disk, 8 GB is sufficient here. Networking is one of the most important tabs here. I have by default 2 network connections. The first one is our external one, which maps to a default static IP address that's configured by Ravello. And I also have an internal one here, which is set to 10.0.1.1 by default. You can see also here that my external one has default gateway set, whereas my internal one does not, which is what we expect. And under services, we can see here what Ravello allows by default to go into the CSR installation, and in this case only SSH is allowed by default. Now let's take a look at the network within my application. For that we go to the next tab here, Network, and you can see my VM CSR 1000V here, which has 2 connections, one via the 192.168 subnet to the router, which means this is my external interface, and one to my 10.0.1.0 subnet, which is my LAN interface. The next step is to publish this application. You can see on the top left here I have the option to publish. This gives me no different options. I can first see what this application includes. I have 1 VM, 1 CPU, 4 GB memory, 8 GB space, and 1 public IP address. Next I can choose here if it's cost or performance optimized. Cost is a simple option, so everything is pre-chosen. If I go for performance, I could choose if I go with a Google data center or Amazon, and then even within I can choose which data center I want to go for. I'm going to go for simply cost optimized, so I'll let Ravello choose where it will be hosted. Application auto stop for 2 hours is fine for me, so I'll just go ahead and publish it. You can see it now being in the published mode. I'm going to pause the video for a moment so you don't have to wait for it. About 5 minutes later the VM is now published. You can see on the top right corner here it's published in the Google Cloud, US Central 1, will auto stop in an hour 52 minutes, and the send clock is gone here. Now if I click on the VM, you can see on the bottom right here these options are enabled now: start, stop, restart, console. By default it started already, so I can now just click onto console, which should open a CLI to it. And you can see the system is already booted as well, so I can just go ahead and start configuring it. Now in this GUI here I have access to the CLI, so you can see here I have my enabled mode, can configure things, give it a host name first, CSR rocks, and I can see my interfaces as well. You can see here I have 2 interfaces configured. One common challenge with virtualization is always to figure out how the virtual interfaces inside the VM map to the hypervisor. I'm going to give you a quick demo of how you can do it here. So I'm now in my VM, in my CSR. I'm going to do a show in gig 1, which shows me here my interface 1 with a MAC address as well. The bird address here ends in F0, F6. If I now go to my Ravello page here, I can check on my CSR VM, networking, my F0, F6 MAC is my external, and my the internal would be 1299. So my gig 0 here is my external interface. Now, because Ravello cannot configure the CSR directly, we have to do that manually. So let me just go ahead and configure in gig 1 according to what we've set in Ravello. So first, IP address 192.168.0.2. Subnet is a class C. Down there will no shut. Exit, exit. So let's see if this works. And it works. So I have connection to my Ravello system already. Now let me also add a route statement, because we want to get more than just our default gateway. So I'm going to do an IP route. One 192.168.0.1. Let's see if we can ping Google. And we can, so we are online. Now I can configure my CSR if I want to and test my design and features. However, it's quite tedious to work with just the GUI because you cannot copy and paste into it or out of it. However, we do have a public IP address, so we also enabled SSH service by default. Let's see if we can just SSH into our VM directly. To do that, our first step is to figure out what our public IP address is. To do that, let's go into our design page here again. On our VM, we go onto the summary page, and you can see here on the bottom right, my IP address is 31.220.67.102. Now let me go ahead and open my putty here and try to connect to this IP address. Enter here ready, 31.220.67.102, SSH on port 22, and connection refused, because probably we still have to configure this inside the CSR directly as well. So to enable the SSH login, I have to go back to my web CLI here, do a quick show run on it to check what's configured. There's no username set, and there's no VTY login set either. So conf 9 VTY04 login local transport input SSH, and let's set a user as well. Username Cisco, priv 15 pass Cisco, and enable pass Cisco as well. To enable SSH access to our router, we also have to create a crypto key. So let me just give it an IP domain name first, Cisco, and then crypto key generate RSA, and we're gonna go with a 1024 key length. Alright, SSH is enabled. Now let's try it one more time. And open. Yes, log in as Cisco. And I'm in my CSR. From here on, it's now very easy to copy and paste configs into the CSR, copy stuff out of it, and add more VMs, build a small network. But let me just show you one more little trick that could be quite handy if you do a networking test. Because one challenge we have with these public IPs here is that they change every time we restart the VM. So let me just show you real quick what these elastic IP addresses are. So by default there's none, we just create one, which pretty much just means auto assign one. So this is a public IP address that's part of Ravello's pool. Now I go back to my CSR and go into networking, and my external interface now gets, instead of the elastic IP, instead of the public IP, an elastic IP address. I select it, that's just one, makes it easy. Select, save, and now I have to update. I do that real quick and wait about a minute. And now that I have my elastic IP address configured, let me try to connect to it. I open my putty again to the correct IP address. Open. And I'm in. Yay! Alright, a few words to this elastic IP address. It's part of a pool that's assigned to Ravello, and it terminates on the router on the Ravello side, meaning it's somewhere in here. And this router does a static one-to-one net to the external IP address of your interface. That means inside your VM, you only configure this IP address, means 192.168.0.2. You do not need to configure the elastic IP address at all. That's all taken care of inside Ravello. This concludes my quick demo of how to run a Cisco CSR 1000 V in the cloud, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.